Hey everyone, welcome to Careers Out There. I'm your host Mark Luber, and we're helping you find a career that fits you. Today we're looking at video game careers. Do you know that the video game industry is bigger than a $20 billion a year business just in the US alone? That's bigger than the movie and music businesses combined. Our guest today is Aaron Roseman, and he's a video game producer with one of the top game developers in the world. It's going to be a great show, so stick around. Okay, we're back. Aaron, welcome to Careers Out There.
Mark, thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. So you are in an industry that is so huge, so successful, so exciting, has a huge stamp on pop culture today. So many people who want cool jobs want to do what you're doing. What's it like?
Not gonna lie, Mark, it's pretty awesome. No, it's a lot of fun. I love what I do. It's in my opinion, it's quite possibly the coolest job in the entire world outside of race car driver, astronaut, or professional Lego builder. But we all have our dreams. I love working in games. It's like I said, it's the greatest industry in the entire world. I work with some of the most fun, creative, imaginative, funny, just good people. I love it, and I enjoy coming to work every day. And it sounds like everybody has their down days and stuff like that, but the truth is, like, it really is just a great environment and a lot of fun.
It's so great when someone can actually say that. That's really, really special thing. So I want to tell everybody, if you're just here representing yourself, you're telling your story so that everybody can learn what it's all about to be a video game producer.
Yes.
You are not here hiring, recruiting for them. You are not here as their official spokesperson. So we'll get that housekeeping out of the way.
Tonight is just about me and being an AP and working in games from my experience and my point of view. And yeah, that's about it.
Good. So I have a feeling a lot of the people that are watching are really interested in learning how to break into the industry, and they probably know all about the industry already. But for the people who don't already know, give us kind of the lay of the land, what it means to be at a studio, and what else is in the industry.
Well, the industry is, it's split into a lot of groups. I mean, there's you could be a part of the video game industry and work at GameStop because you're working and selling the games. You could be a part of the industry and be the people printing the games. You could be a part of it working at a publisher. You could be a part of it working at a development studio. You got the coders, you got a sound department, you got animators, you got artists, you got a production staff. It's all one giant storm, but it's all coming together to create one, fun game for everybody. That's about it. Just a lot of fun there.
So there's all those different roles that bring in different skills, different types of people, different backgrounds.
Yes.
Okay.
There's, like I said, the publisher, their main goal is to make sure everything is done on time and on the shelves on time as promised.
You talked about animators, coders. You're neither of those. You're an associate producer. Tell us what it means to be an associate producer. What's your role over there?
I am neither a coder nor an animator is right, and I claim to be none of those, or an artist, or none of the above. As an AP, you have several roles on a team. Depending on what your status is, you're managing specific tasks or a group of people at any given time. An AP can be in charge of a handful of missions for a game, making sure that the designers, the artists, the coders, and the animators are all working together to create the task of completing these levels on time. Meanwhile, another producer is actually zeroing on a specific task, say like specifically animation, or specifically environments, or specifically multiplayer, or on gameplay balancing. There's producers for everything, making sure that all sorts of tasks are being done and finished on time. And like I said, the video game industry is, in a studio, it's like a big giant storm. And at any given moment, things are just flying all over the place. And it's up to the producers to take all that information that's all over the place, everywhere, and make sure that everybody's talking with each other and it's all connected as one to in order to complete the game, to finish a game.
So you're like a coordinator helping to pull all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Essentially, yes. And then there's levels to producers. There's production coordinator, which essentially what they do is they're there for the team. So if people on the team running anywhere from doing supplies to taking notes getting supplies, taking notes in a meeting, making sure people have their hardware set up, like their Xboxes are set up, they have TVs, they have computers, everything they need is there for them. Much like kind of like a gopher is in the movie industry, except at the same time, like a production coordinator has a chance to learn a certain skill set. If The a PC can have the choice. Will usually have the choice of whether or not they want to continue on the production path, or branch off and say they want to do design, or they want to go into audio or something else. It's a good place to be. But that's production coordinator.
And that's like the first level of production.
That's the first level of production. Yeah. The next one is AP, which is where I'm currently at.
And tell us, how many years out of school are you? How many years out of college are you at this point?
I'm 6 years out of college. I'm an AP. An AP can be in charge of design, sound, audio, animation. We have a whole knowledge of the entire game, of everything that's going on in all departments. And so we're piecing all this information together. We're putting together, impromptu schedules, looking at how much time each task is going to take, and presenting it to our producers. In my case, a producer, and then they make the decisions on what has to be done. And then the producer will hand me tasks, hand the AP's tasks, and tell us what needs to get done, whether it's make sure certain characters are done by a certain date and time, or specific environments, the bugs were fixed in them. It's things like that, and we have to keep on track with those specific tasks. It's all for the greater good of getting a game done on time.
And then what do people do at the higher levels? How is the role different if you then become a producer and then whatever's above a producer?
The role of producer has the broader picture, the big picture in mind. They're in charge, making sure that the APs are getting their work done, as well as talking with the leads of the animators, the leads of the different departments of the games, and they're in cahoots with them. Constantly talking about scheduling and constantly talking about what needs to get done. So essentially, the producers are like generals, plotting out the strategy, and they're plotting out the battle and the strategies and stuff like that. And then they send in the APs to make sure that it's all going to get done.
And who's above them?
And who's above them? That would be the senior producers, the executive producers, and the studio heads.
How would a senior producer and an executive producer then be different from the producer?
A senior producer and executive producer, they deal with more of the bigger aspects of the game, more on top of what needs to get done, and the highest level in order to get the game out the door. That's a very big picture. And like I said, they also make the big schedule for the game. They decide what gets done, what gets cut from the game, what stays in the game. The senior and executive producers have a very big say-so in the development of a game. They know what can and can't be done. And like I said, they're like generals. They command teams, and it's up to them to make sure that we go into battle and we win. In this case, ship a game on time.
So the production team as a whole, it sounds like, the overall role is to keep the engine going, to keep everybody pulling everything together so that everything could get out there and eventually get into the hands of the fans.
Correct. Essentially, the role of the production team is to make sure that the game development never stops. That like you said, the gears keep going. From the production coordinator, like I said earlier, is making sure someone's computer is working, making sure that they have the right hardware, making sure they have computer monitors, making sure the mouse works. Making sure. When I was a PC, it used to be a PC. Making sure that the team is fed is just a very important thing. It's essentially general team happiness is a major part of that job. And as a producer, it's still major part of the job is to also team happiness and make sure people are comfortable, because sometimes you have to ask them to do stuff that they don't want to do, but you can't let it. You got to let them know that at the same time their work is extremely appreciated, and then the truth is, and in the long run, sometimes not sometimes, but it pays off. You get your game on the shelves, and it's a really great feeling. It's awesome. It's really awesome, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be really fun to know that you're working on something that the world gets to interact with.
Exactly, and that's really cool. It's crazy. It's great. It's a good feeling.
All right, so we talk about the big role for all the different producers combined. What about you then as an associate producer? What's a typical day?
That varies. I mean, from the different stages of production. I'll show up to work. I'll get on my computer. I'll look at the emails. I'll look at the bug database, which is extremely important for an associate producer and any production staff members to look at the bugs. See what's broken in the game, see what's busted, and then from there, at least later in production, formulate a task list and then talk to people based on the bugs, what work they have to get done. And you have to speak with the appropriate people, whether it's a coder or it's an animator or an artist, or it's all three of them or all designers or all of them together to get that specific task done, whether it's due that day or later in the week. And it's your job to oversee all of it. There's a lot of talking involved. You have to talk with a lot of people and be able to compute information that they tell you. If someone walks up to you and says, I'm not going to be able to get this piece of work done on time, as a producer, you have to take that little bit of information that they just gave you and compute it in your mind and say, okay, animator A says he can't get this character done on time. How is that going to affect the task for the rest of the week? And it's up to the producer to be like, hey, man, this isn't an option, or, you know, you got to get it done, or okay, we can punt on it.
So you're coordinating the whole thing. You're pulling people together. You're keeping the machine rolling forward.
Correct. And a team is usually made up of several APs, making sure all the work gets done, because one AP cannot handle all of the work. It's just not possible. There's so much going on. You just have to talk with people all day. It's a lot of what an associate producer does, and writing a lot of Excel sheets and sending out a lot of emails.
And the Excel sheets are tracking.
Exactly. Tracking bugs, tracking tasks, stuff like that.
Let's get to what I think so many people want to know, which is, how do you break in?
I'd say the best way to do it is to apply for a job as a video game tester. Start in QA and work your way up from there.
QA, quality assurance?
Yes, QA stands for quality assurance, and that's essentially a video game tester. The greatest job on the planet, guys. And girls.
So you sit and play and just complain about what's working right, basically?
I wouldn't say complain as much as you find bugs in a game. There's a million games out there, people. There's so many games, and there are testers for everything. If you're going to become a tester, don't always think that you're going to become a tester on the world's coolest game and you're going to get on Halo and be on that team playing multiplayer all day. Yes, you do that, and you play a lot of multiplayer, but as a tester, there's a lot of bug writing, a lot of form filling, a lot of late hours, and a lot of sitting in front of a TV, not moving, and playing the same game for several months on end. And it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like 5, 6, 7 months, depending on the project and what you're doing. It can be a really tedious job at times, but it is probably the best way to get into the industry.
And what does someone have to do to get that job? Can they be anybody, or do they have to have worked in the video game world in some way?
Great question, Mark. In my experience, anybody could be a tester. Just, have a resume, have basic computer knowledge, shower. Showering is a plus. That's always a plus in QA. You got to know how to play video games. You got to know how to play games. It's their job to break the game, crash the game, see what sort of weird graphical issues they can occur, making sure that lighting looks well, the characters don't run into walls. Sorry, that's part of AI behaving properly. The game doesn't crash. Everything sounds well. It's kind of like a movie production where you got your lights, your camera. You got to make sure the camera works. You got to make sure the lights work. The controls are responsive, and it's QA's job to look out for all of these things. They're hired because they're supposed to be like the best of the best, like game players.
Someone does that, and then they prove themselves by taking the job seriously, and then they can move up.
Exactly, but it's not just that. It's a QA is kind of like a make or break position as well. The truth is, like, it's a really serious position, and from production, personally, I expect the best out of my testers, but if you stick to it and you show a real dedication to just like loving games, good things can happen. Just be enthusiastic, be happy about it. Don't be a giant kiss ass.
If getting into QA is the key thing and people want to break in,
yes,
how can they get into QA in the first place? What's the best way for someone, whether they're sitting in Iowa or Nebraska right now, or they already live in Los Angeles or New York or Austin, Texas? What can they do to do that role?
Oh man, you can do to do that role. Essentially, to get into QA, have a resume and go to a publisher or developer's website and see if they have positions open. That's what I did. I went for interviews and I totally bombed the interviews, and I never got those jobs in QA, and I was so upset and I was so disappointed. But I just kept persisting. Don't give up. And even if you can't get in as a tester, my best advice is just somehow try and stay involved in the games industry. My knowledge was then expanded when I worked at a game shop, at this mom and pop store, the Games for Less. I'd get paid to sell games and play games.
So would you recommend to a kid in high school right now who's a big gamer but not quite probably able to get that QA job, he or she should start in a store?
I definitely recommend starting in a store. If there's a store that's hiring, get a job there. The people who work in a store are always a colorful cast of characters. It's always so much fun. I recommend if you could do it, I guess go to the mom and pop store because usually they don't sell just the new games. They sell games from all generations. And if you're in a store like that, you have the opportunity to play, like I said, everything. The other thing that I did, so when I was younger, when I was like 12, 13, 14, what I would do is I'd go to different software developers, whether it was Microsoft or some small game studio, and then I'd literally just look for an email address to see if they had anything sort of like beta center or some sort of testing. In the case of the game studios, I actually got in a couple of betas for some cool games that never saw the light of day. You just email somebody there and be like, hey, I'm really interested. I saw your website. I saw this like small game you're working on. If you need somebody to help test it, I'm your man. I'll help you write these bugs. I'd love to do this. Just try and get your hand in there, your foot in there any way you can. Just get experience.
Well, tell me this. So many people come home from work, and to relax, and unwind, they play video games.
Yes.
You're doing this all day, working in it at work. Do you still come home and play video games?
Yes. Yes, I do. Every day, actually. And I work with a lot of the smartest, most giantest nerds on the face of the planet, and they love games so much. These are people, they literally sit and animate and code or do whatever they have to do all day on whatever game we're working on. Then they go home and just like me, they play every game they can get their hands on. These people are like super fans, and we play it all as often as possible, whether it's old, new, etc. But yeah, to get into this, not to get into this industry, but I'd say if to sustain yourself in this industry, it doesn't hurt to have a real passion for games.
So I always ask everybody, what's the most, I ask two things. I ask about the most rewarding aspect of the job and the most challenging. I think we get the most rewarding because obviously I get to be in Nerdland. And so for the most challenging aspect, what's the thing that you would say would weed people out? For the people watching at home who really think they want to be in this industry, what would you say if you can't handle this, don't waste your time, move on, go do something else?
The thing that would weed the people out, let me start first by saying that the number one thing that would weed people out, the hours.
So the hours are the most challenging thing. Is there anything else that you would say?
The technical aspects of the development of a game. There's a lot more that goes into a game than what a lot of people think. There's so many bits and pieces of the game that have to come together. Every day I'm learning something new and something different, and it's a lot to take in. And it's easily, if you don't catch on quick, and if you're not as perceptive or can't take in certain information or technical information, you will drown a little bit and you'll get lost. But as long as you have a good team behind you, they'll make sure that you don't get lost and they'll help you through it. But at the same time, to get to where you're at right now, you have to know this sort of thing. You have to know, have a certain knowledge of computers at the very least. And along with the hours comes, and it sounds silly, but it's a pretty stressful environment. And a lot of people are under pressure from their bosses and their bosses' bosses.
So you need to have a thick skin?
You have to have a thick skin and not take certain criticisms personally.
And I would think what leads to that issue is just the fact that you guys have, the fact that the money is so huge that's at stake for each game, combined with the fact that you guys have really strict deadlines.
But that sort of pressure is intense because it's not just about the money and the deadlines. It's about you have to deal with hundreds of people on a team as well. I mean, there's so many individuals, and every person is unique. And
so, let's take that. Let's take that and boil it down to some of the key things then that people need if they're coming into this industry to be some kind of producer. You got to be. Sounds like you got to be some kind of a people person because you're interacting with all different kinds of people, and they're not just lots of people. It's different kinds because there are all these people that fill different roles that you're interacting with to keep them working together. There are different types of people that fit those roles, right?
Exactly, correct.
Okay, so you got that. Then you got the fact that you got to have a thick skin. You got to be able to deal with deadlines. You got to know your stuff. Let me see, what else? What about, is there a particular education? Does it matter? Do you need a college degree? And should that college degree be in a certain thing? You said yours was in filmmaking.
Mine was in filmmaking. I've seen people in the industry that I work in who never got a college degree. They never completed college, they never got their degree. But I'm not saying like any Joe Schmo who barely finished high school can go on and be a producer. You have to have your wits about you. Just because they didn't finish college doesn't mean that these people are not smart. They're on top of their game. They're extremely smart. They're extremely knowledgeable. And then instead of picking up their education to be in the video game industry in a classroom, Some of them started in QA and just stayed in QA until eventually they made it up a little bit. But they learned, they got their education on the streets, Mark. That's all I got to say.
There you go. And that's sometimes every bit as valuable.
Exactly. Every bit is valuable, yeah.
Anything else that you'd say as far as a skill or a personality type or an educational background that someone really should have and should start gearing up to get if they don't yet have it, if they want to get into this?
The first thing, one of the most important things for being a producer is being a people person, being able to communicate and talk with somebody. You have to, because you're conveying information to them constantly, all the time. That's what you do. I mean, you have to talk to your artist and say, hey, this needs to get done. You have to be able to communicate with somebody in a way that they understand to get a task done.
It's just good communication skills.
Exactly. And you can't just and like I said, every person, no two people on the team that you work on are the exact same. So you kind of have to deal with you have to know everybody on your team. Your designer is not going to act the same way as an artist. Your artist is not going to act the same way as a coder. And you have to know how they behave and how they're going to get work done.
All right, so to kind of wrap things up and end us out on a high note, give us some keys to success for this path of video game production and combine it with an action plan for people watching who want to do exactly what you do.
The most important thing, no matter what, and no matter what project you work on or anything, is you gotta love games. You have to. You have to love playing video games, because that's essentially what's pushing you through this. It's pushing you through this career choice. To get to where I'm at right now, just be persistent. Don't stop trying. If you're in high school right now and you're playing games, just keep playing games. And when you're at the right age, I'd say 18 usually, because that's when people start hiring. Just try and get a job at a game shop. Try and work at a video game company. Just try and get that experience. Yeah. In life, you're probably going to fail. You can fail 1,000 times, and then 1,001, you're going to make it, you know? There's so many paths you can go, whether you want to be a producer, you want to be a coder or an artist or an animator. I mean, Jesus, just pick up a pen and paper and start drawing. It's that simple. Sometimes it's going to require you to leave your hometown. I'm fortunate enough, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, where there are plenty of game studios. You got to go to where the business is. Or if you want to go into production, I mean, and you want to get into testing and stuff like that, you could, like I said earlier, there's small developers go to their website, check out their game, see what they're working on, see if they just need someone to do QA. The bottom line is working in games is absolutely the greatest job on the face of the planet. And if you really like making games and you just see yourself playing video games and being a giant nerd for the rest of your life, and I recommend this job for you. Whether it's, like I said, whether you're going to be an associate producer like this guy, or a coder, an animator, or any other aspect of the industry, as long as you have the will and determination and just the passion for it, you can do it. I've been doing this for the past 6 years, and I have not regretted one itty-bitty moment of this. It has been just so much fun and just amazing. I make video games for a living. I go to work every day knowing that I'm going to pick up a Wii remote or an Xbox controller or a PlayStation 3 controller and just start playing a game and writing up emails about why an explosion wasn't big enough or if a sound wasn't loud enough. And it's kind of silly and kind of amazing and awesome and fantastic. It's the greatest job in the entire world. I love it.
It's so great to hear when someone loves their job that much. You guys leave your feedback in the comments. Hopefully you learned a ton from Aaron today. Let us know, is there something more you want to know about getting into this path of being a video game producer? We'll be sure to get your questions answered. I'm sure Aaron would be happy to comment on the site where you leave your feedback. So please leave feedback in the comments. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Mark, thank you for having me on your show today. It was awesome. I've never been interviewed before. It was a great experience.
It was fun. It was fun to have you. So yeah, thanks for being here. You guys, thanks again for watching. I'm Mark Luber. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.